Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40K, the Necrons channel. Now we've done a few videos and what day was it? A few days ago, it was the 5th of May I believe it was, where we did 3 videos. We were reacting to the new article, we were reacting to the 2 data sheets which were the Warriors and the Monolith. Now they were a purely reactionary video. I didn't do any of the maths, I didn't do any sort of digestion of what's going on. I was literally reacting to it, not live of course on camera, but I was literally pressing record and then reading it for the first time. Now I've had time to reflect a bit, I've had time to do some maths, I've had time to look into people's comments, look into the Discord, and just kind of get a general feel about how everyone feels about Reanimation Protocols for 10th edition. I don't know if you guys noticed, but at the start of those 3 videos, I was very optimistic. I was like, Reanimation Protocols is actually pretty good. And by the time we got to the 3rd video, which was the Necron Warriors, I was less optimistic and I was kind of feeling a bit, I was trying to work things out as I was filming because I was doing it non-stop. By the end of those videos, I was feeling a little bit more, this isn't as good as it could have been kind of thing. Now, what I've done, like I said, I've kind of reflected on this, I've kind of taken it away, looked at everyone's comments and stuff, and to be honest with you, it's still okay. It's actually not bad, it's just different. It's good in some aspects, it's bad in some aspects, it's just going to be very different. We're going to have to get used to that difference. So what I want to do in this video, I want to go through some of the disadvantages and some of the advantages of how Reanimation Protocol is going to work for 10th edition for Necrons. I want to break this down and kind of show you why it's okay. It's okay. So let's get on to the first disadvantage of this video, and it's we're not going to be making max use of our army rule. Now what I mean by that is, say for example you've got, 10, 15 units, let's say 15 units on the battlefield. Your opponent is likely going to target 1 or 2 of them, which means the other, say 13 units are not going to be making use of our army rule Reanimation Protocols because they've not been touched. They've not lost any models, they've not lost any wounds, and the reason your opponent is going to do that is because of that exact rule right there. It's only going to work on models and units that have actually lost something already. Now in 9th edition it worked the other way. What I found players were doing to me is they were taking, against multi-wound models, multi-wound units, they were taking exactly 2 models away from the unit and then they left them alone. And the reason for that is for every 3 models we lost, on average with Reanimation Protocols you got 1 back. So if they took away just 2, on average, well the averages were against us. We likely weren't going to get 1 back. So if you lose 3 Scorpic Destroyers, that's going to be 9 dice in the pool. The likelihood is 3 of them are going to be a 5+, so you got a model back. If you've only lost 2 of them, you've got 6 dice in the pool. The likelihood is you're only going to roll 2 5+ rolls, which meant none of them are coming back. So that's how they were playing. They were sort of skimming 2 units of every unit, 2 models off of every unit, and then leaving them be. Now of course, when there's Technomancers and things, it got a little bit different and your opponent will obviously adapt to that. But because we weren't bringing models back after they were targeted, your opponent was happy to do that. 10th edition is going to work the complete opposite way. Your opponent is going to focus fire on 1 unit, maybe 2 units at best, and they're going to completely remove that unit because all the other units are not going to make use of our rule, and if you've completely cleared a unit, that unit can't make advantage of our rule as well. So that's the way it's going to play. It's going to be completely different for our opponents, play it against us, but also I feel like we're not going to make use of our army rule against a good player. So that is disadvantage number 1. Disadvantage number 2 is we've got to wait until our command phase in order to get Reanimation Protocols, which, that can stink a little bit because previously, for example, let's say we had 20 flayed ones. I want to use these as an example, right? Let's say we lost 6 of them to a single range attack. In the previous edition, the likelihood is from those 6, you're going to get 2 back. That's just how averages work, 1 in every 3. You get 2 back. Now let's say we then lost another 3 more to another range attack. We would have got 1 more back on average. So in total, for the end of the shooting phase, we would have got 3 of our flayed ones back. And they're back at the end of the shooting phase, which was a couple of advantages in itself. I mean, maybe we're controlling an objective, so your opponent isn't going to control it. Maybe it's going to deter your opponent from making a charge move against our flayed ones because we've got a couple extra models in there that are going to put them off having a fight with us. Also the movement, whenever you took a model away and you reanimated them, you could put them in a different place, as long as they're within unit coherency, and again that could get you onto an objective. So we had a few little tricks up our sleeve when using Reanimation Protocols every single time we were attacked in 9th edition. Now in 10th edition, let's presume that this unit survives. You get all the way to your command phase, you roll a dice, and you get D3 back. You may roll a 1, you only get 1 back. You may roll a 3, you get 3 back. If you get that 3, that effectively is the same thing. You've got those 3 models back from what we would have got anyway. This is this one specific example here, when we would have lost 9 in total and we got 3 back. We've not made use of our extra little movement shenanigans that we used to do, and of course we've not had them in the fight phase. There's another disadvantage right there. But of course that's providing that they actually survive until our command phase. Like we said in bullet point number 1, your opponent is now going to focus fire on a unit. They're going to put everything into it. They're going to put range attacks from that side, range attacks from that side. They're going to charge from wherever to get that unit out the way. So the likelihood is we're either going to take heavy casualty. Again, let's take 20 flayed ones as an example. It's not a common unit to use, but I just want to use them as an example. Let's say we lost 15 of them. 15 flayed ones throughout the fight phase and the shooting phase and all that jazz. We get to our turn, we roll a 2 on the D3, we get 2 back. It's nowhere near the amount of models we would have got back in 9th edition, so they're going to be heavily hindered there, and then your opponent is going to finish them off, or they're being completely wiped out anyway, and the rest of our units are not making use of our ability. So that is it's a little bit of a merging of the first bullet point and the second bullet point there. The third bullet point is D3 doesn't feel like much on some units. Now, in fact, we kind of just sort of said that really. A lot of people in the comments seem to be sort of using the example of, oh, we're going to get 3 back. On a Scorbate Destroyer, you get 1 wound back, you can bring another one back and give another one, the wound back to that one. That's actually quite good, but you're always presuming we're going to get a 3 on the D3. The average is 2, and it's not really the same as a D3, is it? You've got exactly a split. It could be a 1, 2, or 3. A lot of the time we're going to roll just a 1. A lot of the time we're going to roll just a 2. If you roll a 1, it's going to feel like living metal in a way. Rolling a 2, yeah, it's a little bit of an improved living metal, if you like. Kind of depends on the unit. If it's a large unit, D3 isn't going to feel like a lot anyway. So that is a little bit of a problem as well. But for you guys in the comments that are sort of going, yeah, we're going to get three back every single turn, it's not going to be like that. Some units yes, some units no. You might just roll a 1. And the last disadvantage, I think 1 wound models and 2 wound models are going to suffer. Now, 2 wound models you can argue a point for and against, but 1 wound models in particular, Immortals, we've already seen with the Necron Warriors in their datasheet, although they can get D6 or D3 plus 3 back, that's actually not too bad, but we don't know what Immortals have got. The likelihood is they're not going to have the same ability that the Warriors have, and they're just going to have the D3 as standard like Reanimation protocols. I think they could potentially suffer, but there are actually ways of sort of debating this exact point. And in fact, let's get on to the advantages, because all the points I've just said so far are quite easily debatable. So advantage number 1, we can adapt knowing that they're going to target 1 unit at a time. What I mean by that is, well, kind of what we said in the disadvantages. They need to target 1 unit in order for the rest of the units to not take advantage of reanimation protocols. So therefore, if we know that information as well as your opponent knowing that information, our screens and our forward units are going to be very key. The way we position units is going to be very key. We need to feed certain units into them in order to protect other units. Now, if they're trying to get a unit that's in the backfields, maybe they're going for we've got a big blob of death marks, for example, at the back. Maybe they really want to target the death marks for some reason. Maybe they're really good for 10th, who knows, right? They're only going to be able to do it at range because we've got screens blocking, the melee attacks coming in if they want to make charge moves and stuff. So we can actually counter the sort of thought process of them trying to actually take advantage of us not using our rule, if that makes any sense. So Canoptic Scarabs, for example, they could now, they were already really good for 9th. They could be absolutely crucial for 10th. They could be that screen. If you're forcing attacks into the Scarabs and they keep bringing, D3 keeps coming back, maybe your opponent's going to be like, we need to get rid of them Scarabs because they are messing up the plans, which means other units that you've got in the backfield are actually making, they're not being targeted. So that's advantage number 1. We know kind of what your opponent is going to try and do. Number 2, it's going to happen. Reanimation protocols is going to happen on every single unit, even if they were not touched in that particular turn. Now, it's not going to be as likely, but let's say you took some damage on a monolith in battle round 1, and then we got to battle round 3 or even 4, and the monolith's still there. Even though they've not targeted that monolith in that turn, it's still going to be bringing D3 back every single turn, so they need to clear it. As soon as they start targeting that monolith early game, if they leave it as it is, it's just going to keep healing back D3, 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 D3. So they need to now start targeting the monolith. Simple as that. If they don't, they've just wasted their attacks in the early rounds. Again, that's an advantage to us. Just remember that, because our monolith could have, well, it will have 4 death rays. If they don't like those death rays firing them, they're going to want to get rid of them. And if they started on it, they need to finish it. And if it's got a lot of wounds, I can't remember how many wounds it's got off the top of my head now. If it's got a lot of wounds, they need to deal with it. So that's going to be an advantage to us. Especially if we actually put our monoliths a bit more forward, which they have to be now because the range of the monolith's range attacks is only 24. So putting them forward as a bit of a shield, they're going to have to deal with it. So yeah, that could work in our favour. Third bullet point here, one model units never had reanimation protocols anyway. I'm going to stick to the monolith as an example. The monolith never had reanimation protocols, remember that. Doomsday Arcs never had reanimation protocols. Ghost Arcs never had reanimation protocols. Annihilation Barges, all the vehicles that are one model units never had reanimation protocols. They just had living metal. Now of course there are some units that had both. Lich Guards, Combat Destroyers, Locust Destroyers, they had both, so they've sort of lost a little bit, but they're going to gain a little bit. But the big stuff, or the vehicles, they only had living metal. So now it's like an enhanced living metal. Before it was just 1 wounds coming back, it's now D3. So you can look at that as an advantage. Monolith D3 every turn. I mean, we even had a command protocol, which was the protocol of the Undying Legions, was it? When we can add an additional wound back for living metal. Sometimes I use that as my all-game protocol to get 2 wounds back. That felt like a win, because when you were getting 2 wounds back on a monolith, for example, it was like, yes, that's really cool. We've got D3 every turn now. The 4th bullet point, we've yet to see how characters and other things are going to work with our faction. We don't know what Resurrection Orb's going to be like. We don't know what Technomancer's going to be like. Canoptic Reanimators, Canoptic Spiders, Ghost Arcs. We don't know how any of those are going to interact with reanimation protocols, and they are going to react, or they are going to interact with reanimation protocols, especially the Reanimator. I've got a feeling the Reanimator is going to be huge this edition, by the way. And you know I hate the Reanimator at 9th. I think it's going to be key. So watch this space. So not knowing that information just yet means we can't kind of jump on this bandwagon of Reanimation sucks. We don't know enough. We don't know enough. And the final advantage I've got for the video today is the AP has reset across the board. Previously in 9th edition, when you had 20 Blobber Necron Warriors and there was a Redemptor Dreadnought and it just targeted at the Warriors, the Warriors were gone. They were gone, right? You just knew they were gone. Unless you could put a Chronomancer's Invulnerable Save on them, they were just wiped. Just like that. And you just think, God, that was so many points. I think it was at the start of the edition, it was 240 points and it went to 210, I think it was. Can't remember now. But they were just getting wiped by just one, Dreadnoughts and stuff. Now, AP has reset across the entire game. So therefore, our 4+ armor save is actually not that bad. It's not that bad, because a lot of things now that were sort of anti-infantry have gone to 0 AP or -1 AP at best. Whereas previously you had like -2, -3, and as soon as they target a warrior unit, it's like, right, you've got a 6+ or you've got, nothing, and you're relying on your reanimation protocols to get them up. But now, less of them are going to be dying because AP has been reset. So we need to remember that. Now, in fact, there is another point I just remembered here, which it could be a good and a bad point. With our Catan shards, I don't know if you read this, in the Reanimation Protocols rule, it simply says if your army faction is Necrons, each unit from your army with this ability activates its Reanimation Protocols. Now, this isn't 100% confirmed because they haven't confirmed what the Catan shards data sheet looks like, of course, but you would presume they've got Reanimation Protocols because it's an army rule. Now, it does say with this ability, which makes me think I'm not entirely sure, but if the Catan shards have got Reanimation Protocols because they've lost living metal, right? That's another reason they should have it. Then we're going to be getting D3 back every turn for the Catan shards. Now, the reason why I said it could be a bad thing as well is our Necrodermis ability, and that's probably gone. The wound cap, every single phase losing 3 wounds, that might be gone, which is a little bit unfortunate. But then you've got to remember the toughness of monsters is probably going up as well. But that's for another day. We're not really here to talk about the Catan shards in this video. This is about the Reanimation Protocols. So overall, I think they're okay. So yeah, guys, that is my additional thoughts to how Reanimation Protocols is working for 10th edition. Of course, we still don't know enough. We still don't know enough. It still could be bad. It still could be good. We kind of just don't know enough. And we're trying to get 2 and 2 and trying to make 4 here. but without all the information, we don't fully know. So I think it's okay, I think it's just different. We've just got to adapt to a new style of play and adapt to how our opponents are going to actually start dealing with Necrons. That's going to feel very alien. If you're a smart player, you can use this to your advantage. Like I said in the start of the video, if you know your opponent is going to focus fire on one unit, feed them a unit that you want them firing on so that they're not firing on other things. Maybe it's the monoliths at the front. That might be a key, you know. I mean, I was slating the monolith data sheet. I think, again, on reflection, I think it's not actually that bad at all. Imagine having monoliths, one or even two of them, at the front of our army. They've got fly now as well, don't forget. Being not only a big screen, but they're in the way. Your opponent has to deal with them. As soon as they start dealing with them, they have to finish the job, otherwise they're going to keep healing. That could actually really torment your opponent. So yeah, watch this space as well for the bigger stuff. So guys, that is it from me today. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next one.